Hello and welcome to Revenge of the Drive-In, the podcast where we watch and discuss a drive-in double feature randomly selected from a list of over 1,700 movies. I am your host, Patrick, and I'm joined, as usual, by my host...
Jimothy. Hello.
There he is. Okay, Jim, good to have you again. We didn't have you last week
back,
in
buddy.
the return from our mid-season hiatus because I had my buddy Josh on again. But now we're back for more Bond as we're talking Goldfinger, and we're talking Takashi Miike's Dead or Alive from 1999. So, interesting double feature. Two pretty different movies, which is going to be true of every double feature that involves a Takashi Miike film, I'm sure. But yeah, any thoughts to lead off?
You know what? I was actually surprised. I mean, I don't want to give spoilers away to my thoughts at the end, but I'm going to. I was surprised by how well this double feature paired.
Yeah, I know you're always just looking, are they the same genre? Okay, sure, it's a good double feature. And then, like, when it's not, you're just like, these two movies suck together. It's like, use some imagination. I'm not saying I disagree with you here, but I'm just like, that's like
I did.
Always your first thing. Are they the same genre? They kind of are here. I mean, it's a spy action versus like a Yakuza gangster kind of gun-fu action, but they're both action movies, sure.
Yeah, then at the end it turns into like Naruto, and I'm down with that. I'm digging.
I don't know what
I'm
that
digging
means,
what they're like.
okay.
That's okay. All you weebs out there, you got me.
All right, Jim, you want to start us off with Goldfinger?
So, Goldfinger, 1964, directed by, who is it? Guy... what's his name?
Hamilton?
Guy Hamilton, thank you. And he directed 4 Bond movies. Goldfinger, our personal favorite, Patrick, Diamonds Are Forever, Live and Let Die, and The Man with the Golden Gun. So not...
Okay, so he's 2 for 4, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Live and Let Die...
Golden Gun's not great. Live and Let Die is pretty good, though.
Exactly, yeah.
Diamonds Are Forever is utter trash.
How dare you? But I agree. And then he directed a bunch of other movies that I never saw, except The Battle of Britain. This movie, like our past James Bond movies that we've covered, stars Sean Connery, and nobody else who's really noteworthy, to be honest. Lots of British actors.
Let me think here. I mean, we do have... Is it pronounced honor? It's spelled like honor, like how Americans would spell the word honor. Is it Honor Blackman?
Yeah.
Because she's another Avengers actress, just like Diana Rigg from Theater of Blood. So she's not like a complete nobody, but I'm trying to think, who else? Do we have anyone else significant in here?
No, I tried to look up
and I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't... The guy who plays Felix, I've never seen. I do recognize the... I don't even know if he has a name, but the Chinese guy... is Kato from the Pink Panther movies with Peter Sellers. It's Bert Kwok,
No, he isn't. What was the character's name? Was it Mr. Ling or whatever? The guy who had the bomb?
Yeah, he's just some Chinese guy. He's like the bomb expert guy.
Yeah.
He's the
Chinese
Red
man
China.
number 5.
I love that they have to specify it's Red China because this is the era of Taiwan is the Republic of China and China is the Red China, the People's Republic of China. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I love this kind of like outdated way of speaking about different countries.
And the outdated smacking of women's asses when like, hey, leave us alone, men talk or guy talk or whatever.
Yeah, well, here's the thing about this movie. I think that when most people think about how racy, sexual, misogynistic James Bond is, they think about this movie specifically.
I don't disagree. I will say this movie has the worst aged line of dialogue in film history, and it has nothing to do with misogyny. We'll get to that line, but it is just like aged like fine milk, you know? It's just like one of those lines. It's just like, oh my God, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Like, in this movie, Sean Connery as Bond oozes so much like charisma and just like sexuality, I guess, that I think this is what I would call the classic Bond movie. This is my favorite classic Bond movie. Like, if I had to break them into 2 categories, it would be New Bond and Classic Bond.
Sure.
This is firmly at the top of the list of Classic Bond. Firmly at the top of the list of New Bond is Skyfall.
Okay, I'm a big Skyfall fan, Yeah,
and both movies are at the tops of their respective lists for completely different reasons, but this is classic Bond. This is what you look for in a James Bond movie. You got gadgets, girls, Bond being a badass, Bond banging women, Bond slapping women around.
The goofy sidekick villain, I think, is a huge thing in James Bond movies that we've kind of lost over time. But the Jaws, the Odd Job, the Knick Knack, those characters are classic.
But and what else do we have? We've got the villain, who's actually a pretty, like, he's got a weird plan, but it kind of makes sense. And he's just a cool,
like his
also
plan.
charismatic villain.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really have globe-trotting. Like, I remember every time we talk about James Bond, we reference, like, a list of yours. Remember, you're like, does it have globe-trotting? Does it have beautiful women? Does it have...
Okay, well,
whatever?
hang on. You're confusing this with my Friday the 13th list, okay? And I understand why you're confused, because I did not bust that out for our Friday the 13th Part 3 discussion, because I was just done with that movie and I didn't want to talk about it anymore. So I understand your confusion, but, okay, no, way back when... And I referenced this because we did a commentary track, patreon.com/Revenge of the Drive-In for Dr. No, and I talked about how we actually recorded 2 different times for that Dr. No and Shocker episode, and it was because there were audio issues on my end, and then also Sean Connery died, and then it's like, okay, well, we should probably address this too, because it's going to be coming out soon. Anyways, I remember in the final episode, you referenced something about me saying that the James Bond formula isn't really established or perfected until Goldfinger.
Mm-hmm.
In the final episode, there was nothing about me saying that. It was just you brought up that I said that, and that was because in the original episode, you and I actually had this conversation. And
You're right, I am confused.
The reason I think Goldfinger is like the standard bearer for all that came after it is the gadgets are a little more unrealistic. Like, we got a few gadgets in From Russia with Love, but it wasn't really like high-tech stuff. It was like a briefcase that shoots gas if you open it wrong or something. I mean, it was all like stuff that you could do at a science fair. And here it's just like, we've got cars that shoot bulletproof glass, all that stuff. We've got the goofy side villain, which that's one of my favorite things in James Bond. I love Odd Job. He's my second favorite. I prefer Jaws. There's also, because like the Bond girl and stuff, that's established in Dr. No for sure. But I think a big thing is this is the first real full integration of the Bond song, which I actually didn't remember. I had thought that the song, because I knew there was a From Russia with Love song, I thought that was featured in the opening credits. It wasn't. But we have here the Goldfinger theme. And then I think even the bigger thing is we get this pre-title sequence action scene that ultimately has nothing to do with the plot, where Bond does something awesome. We had sort of a version of that in From Russia with Love, except it actually had to do with the plot, and it wasn't Bond doing something awesome, it was the villain doing something awesome. It was like a fake-out thing. Yeah. But that's a big thing here. This establishes that. And then in modern Bond, they've changed a little bit. Now they kind of have something to do with the plot, these opening scenes. But like classic Bond, it's just a short film that precedes the film, basically.
Well, and then also with this Bond, you also have Sean Connery being extremely, almost sickeningly witty. Like, he's dropping one-liners, like, left and right, and he's trying to be like, funny, charming, charismatic.
With more consistent success than he had in the previous films, I would say. He had some bad one-liners in From Russia with Love. He had, like, a line or two that was great.
Yeah, this movie has the best one-liner I've ever heard in a Bond movie, and that's, well, I'll get to it in a second. But,
okay, I know which one it is then.
I think, like, Dr. No, with James Bond, they were dipping their toes in the water, trying to get a feel for it. From Russia with Love, they had like submerged the body, and they're like, this is the prototype. And then Goldfinger, they nailed the formula. Yeah, I think they nailed the pacing as well for the most part. I think there's one scene that kind of drags.
I agree. I think that's ultimately the biggest difference between this and From Russia with Love. I think From Russia with Love is an excellent film, just about as good as Goldfinger. I think the real difference is the pacing. From Russia with Love, it's like a slow burn until like the last 30 or 40 minutes is like nothing but action. And here the action is a lot more spread out.
Yeah, and you get a lot of story that is seen through both Bond's eyes and the villain's eyes. You're not just following Bond throughout the whole thing. You're sometimes on Bond, you're sometimes on Goldfinger, you're sometimes on Felix, and I think that's what also makes it interesting.
I'm just going to say, I don't think Felix adds anything to this movie. I think this is one of the weakest Felixes
he's
in the
useless.
series. Yeah, I don't like the actor. I mean, it's like an older actor, or it's like an older version of the character, and he has a few lines that, like, they're trying to, like, imply a friendship there between him and Bond, where they go way back, and it's like, yeah, we've seen Felix before, but the actors just don't have chemistry together. And then when he goes like, "Oh, that's my James," it feels hollow. It just, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, let's get into it, I guess. But after our crappy gun barrel opening with fake Sean Connery shooting at the screen, we get, and I saw what you post on Instagram, we get one of the best costumes in James Bond history. And I think they're in Cuba or Mexico, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not, it's just, it doesn't mean he's somewhere. He's somewhere foreign. But yeah, he's scuba diving, but with a duck on his head.
It's great.
It's great. And
it actually looks passable. That's the
I know, part. Yeah, it's a great disguise, and I love how stupid it is.
So he rips the waterfowl helmet off his head. He pulls out a grappling hook and scales a wall. He takes out a guard, and he sneaks into this storage facility and lays like plasticine explosives on like these explosive barrels. And then he heads to a bar. Actually, sorry, he rips his like scuba gear off, and he's wearing white tux. A classic Bond white tux, and he throws a red carnation in the lapel, and he walks into a bar where this beautiful woman's dancing. He sets the explosives off, and everybody's like running in terror, and he just walks up to the bar to order a drink, pretty much. This is possibly my favorite scene in any Bond movie. And after he kind of gets the attention of this woman, or I guess he just decides to follow her from the bar, this exotic dancer, he goes into this back room where she's in the bath, and he's going to hop in with her. He takes his gun off, hangs it up. He starts making out with her, because that's what real men do. But he sees in the reflection of her eye that there's a guy behind him who's about to club him over the head. Yeah,
I love the creativity of that shot.
It's great. It's fantastic. So he turns this woman around. She gets clubbed. He scuffles with this man, really. It's not a great fight scene, but he flips him over into the tub. And as the guy's laying there in the tub, all soapy, he's reaching for Bond's gun that he just hung up, and he just, like, smacks a fan into the tub and electrocutes the guy and kills him.
Thankfully, it's a long cord.
I know, right?
Yeah. That thing is not that close to the tub. He just, like, smacks it over there.
And then he says, shocking. And he turns to the woman who's just, like, waking up from her concussion, and he looks at her and he goes, positively shocking. And he, like, throws his tux back on and leaves.
Yeah. And then the beautiful brass horns of this John Barry Orchestra / Shirley Bassey Orchestra kicks in or whatever. And we get a fantastic song and great opening credit sequence, which is like a little clip show of upcoming moments in the movie, as well as some moments from previous movies, because they showed the helicopter scene from Russia with Love.
But yeah, it's a fantastic song. Shirley Bassey's got like
it's a top 5 Bond theme. It's probably a top, for me anyways, it's probably a top 2. I'm a big View to a Kill Duran Duran fan. I think that song's amazing.
Great song.
I'd probably put that as my number 1, but this is up there.
I think Shirley Bassey did 2 other songs, right? Diamonds Are Forever and
Diamonds Are Forever and Moonraker.
Yeah. Neither of them were as good as...
Diamonds Are Forever is a good song. Moonraker is one of the most forgettable ones, I think. I think it's up there with, like, was it the Octopussy song is like that almost like smooth jazz song, All Time High. I think that's probably the most forgettable. I think Moonraker.
Oh yeah, is that Octopussy or is that the Spy Who Loved Me?
Spy Who Loved Me is the Carly Simon song. That's a great song.
Okay, I'll try.
It's kind of weird as a Bond song, but it's a great song. Yeah, All Time High sucks. It's when that saxophone kicks in, it just sounds like elevator music.
I know, that's exactly what. Yeah, that's exactly it. You nailed it.
But here, the Goldfinger theme, so freaking maximalist in the musical, just the arrangement. It's so awesome. It's so 60s, but it sounds so Bond. It's not just that the song is good, I think it is, but the instrumentation just sounds like James Bond. and that's why I think it's one of the best Bond songs. Because even there's plenty of great Bond themes. Something like Live and Let Die by Paul McCartney. Great song, doesn't feel as Bond as this does, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And I will say, like, a Bond theme that does sound like Bond, and they do use throughout the movie, like here in Goldfinger, they use the opening to Goldfinger kind of throughout the movie.
Yeah, the good themes are integrated into the score as well. Yeah.
The one I really enjoyed was Chris Cornell, You Know My Name, in the 2006 Bond.
Casino Royale.
Yeah, I thought they integrated that into the movie really well. And I think that's another great Bond theme. A little underrated. Great opening as well. But this one is definitely, let's say definitely maybe, my favorite opening with Shirley Bassey. It's great. So after the opening, we get to Bond in Miami. And I just want to say there's this awesome opening shot of this resort in Miami. And
yeah, I love all the establishing stuff here.
Yeah, and you're really going to wonder, like, how big the budget was, because you can tell they're shooting it from a helicopter in 1964, and they have this camera, and they, like, zoom into a guy on, like, a diving tower, and he dives into the water, and then it just cuts straight to a guy underwater swimming. And
then the way the camera moves, and it shows that we're following Felix, who's, like, outside, like, a glass observation platform, like inside the pool or something. It's really cool how they do that, but it's also like, what pool is installing that? What hotel or whatever? What beach club?
Yeah, so Bond is hanging out there, and again, this is what I was referencing earlier. This is the movie that people reference when they say that Bond is a womanizer, because Felix shows up to talk to Bond about Goldfinger and this new mission where he's going to be working with the CIA, and there's a woman there named Dink who's giving him a massage. And Bond stands up and says, Felix, this is Dink, Felix, Dink, say goodbye to Felix. And she goes, oh, and then he just smacks her in the ass as she walks away.
Yeah, well, he says like guy talk or something.
Oh, that's right.
It's just the little,
he's like,
casual ass smacking.
Dink, say goodbye to Felix.
Amazing. And
guy talk.
There's
like
something
man
like
talk or something, you know.
There's something about just the stupid nature of this. Like, yes, it's horribly dated, but it's kind of fun to see it presented in a way where, like, maybe not that this was normal, but it wasn't like shockingly off, you know, that like James Bond just does this, you know, and it's just like, it's part of the appeal of the character. It's not like the main appeal, but
you're right.
There's something about like just these older Bond movies where it's like, okay, this is just kind of interesting. This is a different era, you know?
Well, and I mean, speaking of different era, this is also the movie stroke scene where he's wearing my favorite Bond outfit, this baby blue romper that looks like it's made out of like terry cloth or something. I love it.
Yeah, it's a famous outfit.
Every time we talk about James Bond.
Yeah, we brought it up numerous times. I know it's brought up in the Dr. No commentary track because there's a scene in that movie, or a number of scenes in that movie, where he's wearing the same color, different outfit, but he's wearing the little baby blue. But yeah, this is a famous outfit. This is you are on record as saying you would love to purchase this outfit to wear around your home.
Yeah, when I get a bit more money, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna send you a picture. You can put it on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and I'll make myself a martini too. This is also the scene where we're introduced to Goldfinger, because Felix shows up, says, "Hey, I got a new job for you." There's a guy, Auric Goldfinger, which great name.
Well, yeah, because AU is. Auric, AU is the chemical symbol for gold,
yes,
of course.
Yeah. And his car's got the license plate AU1, which is a Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost, I think.
It should be an Audi.
It should be, yeah. Goldfinger's at this hotel fleecing this guy in gin rummy, I think. So Goldfinger's acting kind of strange. He says, "Oh, I'm here to play my card game with you. Can I have my usual seat?" So while he's doing that, Bond goes upstairs and sort of like semi-assaults a maid. And he grabs her by the waist and takes her keys off of her to open Goldfinger's room. And he walks in, and there's a woman lounging around in lingerie, Jill Masterson. She's helping Goldfinger cheat at cards. She's got a pair of binoculars trained on him. He's wearing an earpiece. She's talking through a walkie-talkie to tell him.
These are the best binoculars on Earth.
I know.
That is such like a close-up image of what she's looking at, which is several hundred feet away.
I know, and I also like how the binoculars seemingly move like a camera would, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I always like when movies try to trick you that you're looking through binoculars.
Oh, yeah, because they're, like, they're, like, on some thing. They're, like, fixed on the railing.
Yeah, they're on, like, a tripod or something. So Bond overpowers... Well, I guess he doesn't even really overpower.
No, that's too aggressive.
He says, hey, can I use the radio? And Jill Masterson says, yeah, sure. So he takes over the radio, tells Goldfinger to lose $15,000 because Bond knew he'd been fleecing this guy, and Bond knows that he's cheating. And so while Goldfinger's losing money, him and Jill head to the bedroom. After they're fooling around for a while, well, even before then, there's even more like outdated masculine humor where he's on the phone to Felix and he's like, yeah, I'll be there at like 8 a.m. or something to like some meeting. And Jill goes, not too early, and he just like puts his hand on her face and throws her onto the bed.
Well, and he even has a line too that says like, or I think it's a line that he has when he's on the phone. I think he says it to Felix, but he says something hard has come up or something. He has a line like that. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it just reminds me of, because there's the scene in The Spy Who Loved Me, which is very much just the same scene. It's the opening scene at like the ski lodge or whatever. Famously in the Alan Partridge show when Alan Partridge is describing the entirety of that movie. He's saying, he's like, gotta go, love, something's come up, and then Michael goes, huh, he means his cock. It's like, that's what's going on here.
Yeah, so after Bond is done being a sexist, I guess, he goes to get up to get more champagne, and then this is where he makes this fantastic Beatles joke.
Oh my god, this is the worst aged line in movie history. I mean, you have to think of it in context. This is 1964. The Beatles they're not exactly new on the scene, but they're still they're sort of an anti-establishment figure, I guess. They're not really accepted by the old folks, probably, because rock and roll is still this, like, we don't really know what it is. But what is it? He says he's talking about drinking the Dom Perignon 53 at a temperature above 38 degrees Fahrenheit. He's like, that's worse than listening to the Beatles without earmuffs. And I'm thinking like, Bond, you were so cool. What is wrong with you?
That, you have to admit though, that's a pretty good joke. Like, that's a solid joke.
But it's like so horribly, like, the Beatles went on to become a far bigger institution even than James Bond. It's like, how were they so off on the one pop culture critique the James Bond series has offered? How were they so wrong? I guess maybe that's why they haven't done it more often.
Maybe that's why the Beatles are never invited to do a Bond song.
McCartney did one, but they also had. Right, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm just thinking, like, does the Bond series offer any other pop culture critiques? I don't know. Does they have anything to say about Wayne Newton? Maybe they might.
Maybe,
but it's just like, ugh, that line. It's cringy, as the kids say.
Well, after he makes the bad Beatles joke, we see a hand kind of approach Bond from the rear, and then he gets knocked out. He gets karate chopped in the back of the neck, and he gets knocked out. When he wakes up, he walks into his bedroom, and there's Jill Masterson laying face down on the bed, covered in gold paint, and she's dead. She died of skin suffocation.
Beautiful, beautiful image, very famous. It was like, I want to say it was on the cover of like Life magazine or something, so it might have even been a famous image before the movie came out, or maybe that came out after the movie, but like just one of the enduring, probably the most enduring image of the James Bond series, certainly, and one of the most in all of cinema.
They attempted to recreate that, but with oil in Quantum of Solace. It was not nearly as iconic or interesting.
Yeah, kind of uninspired, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Oh, Strawberry Fields, another Beatles reference.
oh my God!
Right,
yeah,
that was her name, right?
Wow. Yeah, that was her name, Strawberry Fields. Wow, maybe they knew.
If I'm not mistaken, they never even call her Strawberry in the movie. She like introduces herself. She says, "My name is Fields," and then you wouldn't know her name was Strawberry Fields until you like looked at the credits or whatever. If I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. Quantum of Solace is one of the ones I'm going to
side with you on this one.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you're right. It's a beautiful shot. I would genuinely have that shot framed on my wall as a poster. I think that's a beautiful shot.
Hang it in your closet right next to your romper.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So Bond heads back to London. He's debriefing with M, and M's giving a bit of a dressing down for banging Goldfinger's girlfriend and getting her killed and spooking Goldfinger, because I think Goldfinger came back to the UK. That night, Bond is invited back to have dinner with M, and I don't remember who it is, like some rich fella.
Oh, some gold guy, I think. He has something to do with, like,
I think so, right?
Study of gold or something. He has some gold thing. He has a gold adjacent interest or talent. There's something to do with gold in their discussion.
Exactly, and you know because he knows a lot about gold and he's rich, so he must be good at it. So at the dinner, this fella kind of explains what one of the problems with Goldfinger is, and that it's that Goldfinger is a legally licensed jeweler worldwide, but he's also a gold smuggler, and they don't know how he's getting gold around the world. And he explains that Goldfinger has $20 million in gold bullion, in China and Britain and France and Switzerland and all over the place. And this is where Bond comes in. He has to find out how Goldfinger's doing it. And then also we get a weird scene. This was cringy, as the kids would say, I guess.
Are we talking golf here?
No, this is the part where Bond is critiquing the brandy on the table.
Oh,
this movie has all the Bond tropes. This is.
These are
the birth.
These are the things that I just skip over if I'm doing a description of the movie. But hey, you do you.
Yeah, well, I just want to. It's just cringe. I don't know. Ugh, I just don't like.
Let's just get to the golf scene. The golf scene is fantastic.
Best stuff.
It's just the movie kind of stops. He's got his Irish caddy who's a very dishonest caddy, by the way, because that guy goes along with Bond's play. I mean, that caddy was he just works for the club, right? And we find out later, by the way, that the
and it's
club is owned by Goldfinger. But this guy just goes along with Bond, who sort of cheats. He more just kind of forces Goldfinger to cheat. But it's I don't think any honest caddy would go along with this. These caddies, you see, they follow a strict moral code, and I don't think this guy. This guy belongs in Caddyshack, not at a fine institution like this golf club, wherever the hell it is.
Exactly, yeah.
Sean Connery, though, I will say, good swing. Goldfinger, not as good, but there is a scene where he drives, and it looks like he actually hit the ball, and it looks like he hit it pretty far.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a slice. Is a slice to the left, right? Slices to the left.
Well, it depends if you're right-handed or left-handed.
Does it?
Yeah.
I guess.
Because my slice would be different than your slice, because I'm left-handed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So you would. Yeah. Sorry, I was just miming the motions in front of myself. So yeah, this golf game, really great scene. Bond is given this bar of Nazi gold at the dinner party, and this is what he's going to use to lure Goldfinger into.
This is where Bond gets canceled.
Kind of getting into his good graces. So they're at the golf club. Bond sets it up so that they can play a round together. And near the end of their round, on the end of the 16th hole, Bond just thuds this thing down on the green in front of Goldfinger.
I love that.
And he's so amazed by this bar of Nazi gold that he misses his putt. So from here on out, Goldfinger says, hey, we're going to play for money. And by money, I mean that bar of gold. So if I win, I get the bar of gold. If you win, you get $5,000. And you get to keep your bar of gold. It was already established that the ball that Goldfinger uses is a Slazenger.
Slazenger 1.
So he's first up to tee, hits it off. Bond hits his, and Goldfinger can't find his ball. It's in the rough somewhere. So he's looking around for it, and then Oddjob. Oh yeah, I guess I forgot to mention, this is where we formally meet Oddjob.
Yes, Oddjob is the caddy, who they basically say is just mute, and he says he's a great assistant, but he's an awful caddy because he can't say a damn thing.
So he drops another Slazenger ball from his pant leg because Goldfinger can't find his, and he really wants to win this game. And then Oddjob, on finding this new ball, goes, ha ha!
Yeah.
Like a fucking crow or something. Yeah, and the guy goes, wow, that was the Bond's caddy goes, wow, that was a great bit of luck for Goldfinger. And James Bond goes, can't be his ball. He's like, why do you say that? He goes, because my foot's on it. It's that's the classiest, smoothest thing James Bond has ever done, to be honest. He was hiding Goldfinger's ball, trying to make him lose, right? Bond has found a Slazenger 7 on the course. So at the end of that hole, when Goldfinger finally sinks his putt, and it seems like Goldfinger's won, Bond has this Slazenger 7 in his pocket, and he bends down to pick up the two balls out of the cup, and he switches Goldfinger's ball with the 7. And he points out to Goldfinger, he goes, "Hey, this is a 7. You play a 1, don't you?" "Well, you must have played the wrong ball somewhere on the fairway. You have to forfeit the game now." So, which means I win. And it was just like such a smooth thing to do. Like, I just really appreciate that whole scene.
Yeah, I love the golf scene. I love it's very unlike any other Bond scene I can think of, because it's like, I don't know, it's like, I mean, it's golf. It's like it's a classy sport, right? Like we always see Bond in these classy social scenarios, whether it's cards or just, drinking a martini. But yeah, it's just golf. It's fun. He gets to show off his Scottishness, being Sean Connery,
Yeah.
Great stuff. I also like when Oddjob crushes the golf ball in his hand.
Yeah, that's great. Well, yeah, and this is also the scene where we get proof that Oddjob is in fact an odd job. And he takes off his bowler cap and throws it at a statue, and it breaks the head of the statue off. So it's kind of terrifying, but also really neat. Like, I wish hats like that existed.
No, you don't.
I do.
No, you don't.
I'd be really good at throwing them.
How much longer it would take to get through security at an airport if hats like that existed?
So while Goldfinger is writing out a check to Bond, he places a tracker on Goldfinger's car. And from this he finds out that Goldfinger's heading to Geneva. His car is being loaded on a plane, so Bond tails him. He's following him along mountain roads, and then is overtaken by this crazy woman in kind of a sports car. And this woman turns out to be Tilly Masterson, Jill's sister. But she tries to take out Goldfinger while he's at like a fruit stand on the side of a mountain. But she's so fucking bad.
What kind of fruit is he buying? Look at Goldfinger. He doesn't look like a fruit guy to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he's not eating much fruit, is he?
Yeah, I don't know, like maybe like a pineapple upside down cake or a strawberry cheesecake, maybe. But
there you go. Yeah.
No.
Just a whole apple pie. Yeah, Tilly Masterson is so bad at her job that she almost shoots Bond instead of Goldfinger, who's standing like a couple 100 feet behind him and like up the side of a mountain. So she's just fucking terrible.
You say she's bad at her job. We don't know what her job is. She's not like a hired gun.
She could be a
she's
receptionist.
Just seeking,
I don't know.
Yeah, she's just seeking revenge. Like, she's not an expert at this shit. She's
you're
not
right,
Bond.
You're right.
She doesn't have Q branch. She's doing what she can. Yeah. She's doing her best.
Oh, man, we skipped... Wait, did we skip over all the Q stuff? I think.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about the Q scene. Which, that's another reason why this is the first real, like, the Bond formula here is, like, perfected, because we get the Q scene where they see all these gadgets, then all these things in the background that Bond doesn't use, but that we see tested out, like, because it's got this, like, bulletproof vest that they just shoot this dude with an automatic weapon with, and he's okay, and yeah, there's that thing.
Yeah, Bond is given a couple trackers, like a big one that's magnetic, and then you can stick to cars, and then a small one that you can put on your person, and then he's given a rundown of his beautiful Aston Martin, and it's got like a bulletproof back windshield, smoke screen,
bulletproof front windshield also.
Yeah, what is it? Smoke screen,
ejector seat,
oil slick. And yeah, and then the best part is the ejector seat.
Think of all the Bond gadgets, and we get to some, over the course of the series, we get to some kind of absurd territory with some of them, but there will never, ever be anything cooler than an ejector seat in a car, I don't think it's possible.
Oh, absolutely.
The next closest is the magnetic watch, but that's mostly just because Roger Moore uses it to to lower someone's zipper, which is just awesome. Like, that's like the smoothest Bond has ever been. But yeah, ejector seat is, that's great stuff.
Yeah, and this is also the first movie that you get Q being kind of like funny and quirky, right?
I don't know. Like he's there. It's Desmond Llewellyn. It's him. He's doing his thing. And I feel like as the series went on, he became more and more funny. But that's also because if you look at the scenes with him and Roger Moore, because Roger Moore in general was just a funny guy. But Roger Moore had such amazing chemistry with him that I think they started making those scenes a lot more comedic. And then, isn't Q, like, involved in the plot in Octopussy or something? Doesn't he, like, tag along in the adventure for part of it?
Yeah, he's...
Yeah, so it's like, we're not full on, like, Q is a comedic character there, but there's a personality there at least.
Yeah, he's also kind of involved in the plot of You Only Live Twice when he flies Little Nelly, the gyrocopter.
I believe it. I don't remember.
Yeah, people always try to forget that movie because that's when James Bond was the most racist.
Hey, that's a solid flick, though. I think that is the most James Bondy movie. That is the most James Bond has ever been. That movie.
Also, You Only Live Twice, pretty decent song.
Yeah, it's an okay one. Middle of the road for the series, I think.
Well, to skip back ahead in time in this movie, after Goldfinger drives away and after Bond almost gets shot, he peels out in front of Tilly Masterson and has, like, a tire popper also in his Aston Martin, and he runs her off the road with it. And he picks her up and takes her to a service station, mainly to find out more about her and to try to eliminate her from this situation, I guess. Not right. Like kill her, but just remove her from the situation.
So then Bond goes to the Goldfinger Auric
Enterprises, the Goldfinger factory, that's it. He hangs out there till nightfall and then scoots himself on up to the factory windows, and he sees that they're taking apart Goldfinger's car, smelting it down. And this is how he's smuggling gold all across the world, because he takes his car everywhere with him. As Goldfinger's leaving a room, Bond overhears them say something about Operation Grand Slam, which sounds like a giant breakfast item at Denny's.
Yeah, Operation Grand Slam just turns out to be a Denny's expansion that Goldfinger is working on. Oh, no, it's a hostile takeover of Denny's. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, Bond leaves the factory after he hears this, and he immediately alerts all of the baddies to his whereabouts because Tilly Masterson shows up to try to shoot Goldfinger, and Bond tackles her and makes her gun hit like a tripwire. So all of these, I assume they're Chinese people, all of these Chinese people come flying out of the factory and hopping in cars, and we get a car chase with Bond's supercar versus all of their machine guns. And he's pulling out all the gadgets. He's pulling out the oil slick and the smoke screen and the bulletproof back window.
Can we just say the car crash here, the car explosion?
Yeah, it's
is
the best
one of the coolest things ever. Because it's just like a fireball. The car just like starts on fire immediately. Like it hasn't even crashed yet. It just kind of goes off the hill. It goes off the road and it's in the air and then just boom, it starts on fire. It's amazing. So cool.
It was almost exactly like the Dr. No car crash.
Except so much better executed.
Because then it like rolls into the side of the building and you're like, wow, that does look cool. But eventually Bond hops out of his car and he's trying to take on all these Chinese people. And he says, hey, Tilly, make her run for it. So she takes off, but she gets cracked in the neck by Oddjob's hat. So Bond kind of gives up, or he seemingly gives up, and he heads back to his car, and he's got a guard with him.
It's very convenient that they let him just drive the car, even though like there's a gun held to him. Like they wouldn't let him drive.
I know, right? Yeah. He's heading towards this factory, and then he tries to make a break for it. Like, where the fuck is he going to go, right?
He just wanted to use the ejector seat. He just needed an excuse to use the ejector seat. That's all this was.
The guy next to him hadn't shot him yet, so he was like, hey, I guess I should probably eject him now. So he does, and that's awesome. Even though it's clearly like a dummy being shot, being like thrown out of like the roof of the car. Then there's kind of like a weird car chase between in alleyways, and then Bond is bested by a literal mirror where he's driving down an alleyway, and his headlights are being reflected off a mirror, and he thinks there's another car coming, so he swerves into a wall and knocks himself out.
Which he would have hit the wall anyways, I think, because there's a wall dead ahead of him where the mirror is, so I think he's crashing no matter what in this situation. I really think that.
Now, this is the scene where we're treated to one of the most famous lines in Bond movie history. So Bond is captured. He's strapped to a table with a laser beam pointed at him. This awesome looking like neon blue and red laser beam. And I don't know how they did it. I assume there's like a torch or something under the table and they're just cutting through like this cardboard painted gold or something.
Probably, yeah.
But Goldfinger has this laser beam trained on his crotch essentially.
Well, it's between the legs and it's moving up. It's moving towards the crotch area.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I'd be terrified.
Well, Bond is because he lies. He has literally nothing he can do here except for just lie and hope for the best.
Before he mentions Operation Grand Slam, he's still like strapped on the table, and it looks like he's going to die. Like, this is the end of James Bond. And he says to Goldfinger, who's walking away from him, because Goldfinger's just going to let him die. He doesn't give a shit about James Bond. He goes, "Do you expect me to talk?" And he goes, "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die." Greatest line ever. And then Bond says, "Oh, Operation Grand Slam." He goes, "I know about it. And 008, when I die, he'll just take my place and he'll know about it. And MI6 knows about it." Goldfinger doesn't call him on his bluff. He saves him.
At first, he kind of does call him on his bluff because he's just like, it's a name that you heard and it means nothing to you. And then he's like, nothing, you're just bluffing. And then, but Bond is like, "But can you afford to take that risk?" And he's thinking, "Oh shit, you're probably right."
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that because, like, even when he's confronted with this, like, Goldfinger is still, like, he's ruthless enough where he's so close to doing the right thing. And I mean the right thing in the sense of a Bond villain who they usually just monologue and let someone, go by not killing them quickly. He's so close to killing him quickly here. He's so close. He almost did it.
So after Goldfinger frees him, he knocks him out and puts him on a plane heading for Baltimore, then ultimately Kentucky. And this is where we meet Pussy Galore, who is a lesbian.
Well, yes,
I think we can
no.
safely say she's a lesbian.
It's very clear that she, in the book, which I'm sure you've read, right?
I did,
She's
yes.
a lesbian in the book. Here, they definitely don't say it. They maybe imply it because I think at one point she says something like, "Oh, your charms don't work on me," or something, which might mean she's a lesbian. Also might just mean like she's just not into 60s men who
hairy Scottish
smack
men,
women on their asses when guy talk is to be done. I mean, it could mean a few things,
Yeah, well, then she also kind of wears mannish clothes. And there's a scene later where she pulls out some jujitsu moves on him.
Judo,
that was it.
which that had to be written into the script because that was just something Honor Blackman just knew judo. I don't know if it was from her time on the Avengers show, but she just like happened to know that, and then they're like, "Oh shit, let's put this in the movie." Then I think that's kind of neat.
Well, that's great. But so he's heading to the States, and then we also get this cute scene where he goes to the bathroom to activate his transponder so the CIA and MI6 know where he is. Mm-hmm. And there's this lady, the stewardess, I guess, on the plane. She's trying to spy on him in the bathroom to make sure he's not up to any secret agent stuff. And he keeps on, like covering her view of the bathroom in various ways, which is great.
With shaving, he hangs a coat there. He opens his briefcase to block one view. He uses shaving cream. Like, I love that. It's great.
So when we make it to Kentucky, we get to meet the possibly worst named flying circus in history, and it's Pussy Galore's Flying Circus.
Well, how many flying circuses do you know of, though? I mean,
I don't know
exactly.
This
could be the best named one.
Yeah, you're right. It could be. Yeah, 10 out of 10. Pussy Galore, and it's an all-female flying troupe. That's even more. That's even more ammunition.
Which I want to point this out, and it's amazing that they got away with that name in 1964. Like, kudos to them, for putting that in the movie. Because it's not like people didn't know what that meant. People knew what it meant. It was just they were able to do it in the 60s. It's amazing. You couldn't have done this in like an 80s movie that's rated PG or anything like that. It's amazing. And I also read Honor Blackman. It was very humorous to her, and when they were doing like press stuff, like she would always say her character's name constantly, but everyone interviewing her was really uncomfortable saying anything about it. So like anything that they printed would just like refer to her as like Goldfinger's pilot or something. But she was just like apparently really into making people feel uncomfortable about her character's name, which is great. That is
so funny. Wow. I also like the idea that in 1964, the biggest hurdle that James Bond has to overcome isn't a Korean man who's like 50 times stronger than him or a laser. It's a lesbian who is who's not affected by his charm.
It's a lesbian who knows judo.
Yeah. So Bond is escorted to this cell in the basement of Goldfinger's stud farm. Oh my god, can we get any more sexual? Goldfinger's assembled like a bunch of criminals, like a bunch of mobsters in his house for some reason.
Bunch of
to
Yakuza.
Explain to them. Yeah, yeah. And he's explained to them that he's gonna raid Fort Knox. He's borrowed like $1 million from everybody, or he owes them like $1 million in gold, but he's gonna give them each $10 million in gold once he raids Fort Knox. And that's his big plan, Operation Grand Slam. One of the mobsters doesn't want to go along with the plan, so he leaves. So Goldfinger gives him gold and tells him to go. But as he's doing that, he gasses all the bad guys in this room with this like nerve agent that he's going to spread over the area of Fort Knox to like knock everybody out. The side effect of this nerve agent, though, is that it kills them. So he just assembles all these people in a room who then agree to help him, and then he kills them all. The criminal they sent on his way with like $1 million in gold, he lets Oddjob drive him to the airport. But no. Oddjob doesn't take him to the airport. Oddjob takes him to like a scrapyard and plugs him in the head, and then gets his car crushed in a car crusher, and then hauls the crushed car with the body in it and $1 million worth of gold in it back to Goldfinger so he can get his gold back.
You'd think he could just shoot him, then take the gold, and then crush it, so they don't have to crush the gold. But whatever, you do.
I know. But I love Goldfinger. This is great. This is like grade A
This
villain
is the
stuff.
one scene that kind of drags for me a bit. The whole 'cause this is a weird segment of the movie, I guess. But this is where Bond escapes from his little cell, and how he escapes. It's really not clever. He just like looks at his guard and then just like lowers himself, and then so the guard has to go in to see like, oh, what's going on. Like they didn't really write it very cleverly. Mm-hmm. But I like the scene where Bond is spying on first of all, it's a great bad guy presentation, the unveiling of the plan.
Oh, it's fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah.
And we still don't have all of the plan exactly. But that scene's a lot of fun. I like Bond spying on them. But then when it goes to this other guy, this one mobster who doesn't go along with the plan, then Bond puts his tracking device on that guy. So then Felix is like following him, and they're going to the scrapyard. It's just like, what's going on here? Why did Bond give them the tracking device?
Well, because he wrapped the tracking device in a note that had all the plans about Operation Grand Slam.
Yeah, I guess he figured that Felix would be able to intercept that guy, but I feel like he had to have known that guy was going to get killed, right? That's my complaint here. Is
I know, right?
I think Bond wasted this tracking device.
Yeah. Yeah. So right after that, Goldfinger realizes that they're being watched by the CIA, so he gets Bond to come out of his cell and for Pussy Galore to like hang out with him and make him look comfortable. And this is where Bond says, "Hey, Goldfinger, I heard your plan. I don't think it makes sense. Why would you do it? Unless you have a dirty bomb from the Chinese, because this Chinese fella I saw you talking to in Switzerland is like a nuclear...
Kato?
He's big on nukes. So I think you're going to irradiate all the gold in Fort Knox, and the only gold that will be available to everybody on the planet for like the next X amount of years is going to be the gold that you possess." And Goldfinger's like, "Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what's going to happen. Goodbye." and then this is where James Bond assaults a lesbian and turns her into a straight woman.
Yeah, this is almost as poorly aged as the Beatles line. This scene.
Yeah,
it's. I still think the Beatles line's a little worse, but this is not pretty.
When I was a kid watching this movie, I thought it was kind of funny, but as an adult watching this, I'm like, ugh. Why?
Well, yeah, because they have like the wrestling kind of slowly becomes lovemaking, but like, yeah, I'm certain when I was a kid, I was watching this, I'm certain I didn't get lesbian vibes from this, but I mean, it's still, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, so he bangs her till she's straight. Yeah, that's the end of that day. So the next day, Fort Knox is assaulted, and Pussy Galore's flying circus flies over the area, spreading their nerve agent. Everything's going according to plan. Everybody's like knocked out, laying on the sides of the roads, asleep in cars that are like overturned. Goldfinger and everybody roll up. They blow the main gate to Fort Knox. Then they laser down a door, which is pretty cool. And then they set this nuclear bomb. Next, all the soldiers and everybody outside just wakes up, and they're like calling orders and stuff on the radio. And it turns out, this isn't revealed till later, but it turns out that Pussy Galore's actually on the side of Bond now, because he also banged her into a good guy. and they switched out. She like switched out all the nerve agent canisters.
Presumably, the only reason she was evil was because she was a lesbian. Remember, this is 1964. Okay, you get with the times here, Jim.
Yeah, those evil lesbians.
Now, I want to say, speaking of the lesbian subtext here, or text, whatever you want to call it, there is a line. This is with which one's the first Masterson?
Jill.
Goldfinger, or she does say that, like, oh, Goldfinger pays me to help him cheat at cards and also to be seen with him.
Yeah.
I.e., she's a beard. Now, is she a beard because Goldfinger wants to sleep with her and she just is saying that she doesn't because, Bond is more attractive at the moment? Probably. Or is she a beard because Goldfinger is actually gay but wants to be seen with an attractive young woman? Think about that, why don't you?
Or maybe Goldfinger can't get it up and he's just a sugar daddy.
Yeah, there's
he's just
plenty
of
Goldfinger. He's one of those old rich guys that just wants to be around attractive women, probably wouldn't know what to do if he actually had the opportunity, but there is an opening to read him in that one line as gay. So potentially every single evil character, except for the Chinese Kato guy, is gay in this movie. Think about it.
Oh, I hope this becomes like a serious theory somewhere.
I'm sure. Well, there's legitimate academic papers and stuff on Bond. I'm sure this has been discussed. I mean, obviously the James Bond banging a lesbian into being straight is like not that this is like the only thing that happens in, but like that is a very problematic thing that has been talked about in a lot of media and stuff like that by scholarly authors as well as just regular people who recognize that is messed up. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. This has been touched upon, I'm sure, but I don't know.
Much like Bond touched Pussy Galore.
No,
Pussies Galore.
And Dink's ass or whatever. What was her? Was it Dink?
Dink.
Or Bink?
Yeah, it was Dink. It was Dink.
I get the main Bond girl having a suggestive name. I get that becomes or is a theme. I guess it's a theme in the books first, I guess, and then we get Honey Rider in the movies, and we got Pussy Galore here, which is certainly of all of the Bond girl nicknames the one that they're playing with fire the most, I would say. But yeah, why do you even just the side ones have stupid names like Dink or Bink? What? I don't get it.
She sounds like one of the Teletubbies.
Yeah, Dink. Dink was the name of Luke Wilson in My Dog Skip. He's Dink Jenkins.
No, he wasn't, was he?
Yes, he was.
Oh.
Local legend of Yazoo, Mississippi, Dink Jenkins.
Well, inside the vault at Fort Knox, Bond is chained to the bomb and he's left to die. And as Goldfinger begins to leave with the Chinese scientist, all the American soldiers begin to attack Goldfinger's men. And this scene, I love this scene. Goldfinger runs into a separate room, rips off his clothes because underneath he's wearing like a U.S. Army uniform.
Yeah, like an officer is like a colonel or something.
And he immediately runs out and shoots the Chinese scientist. It just like plugs him like 4 times.
Oh yeah, he takes out Kato. He did something that Inspector Clouseau was never able to do. I love how he's got a gold pistol, of course, too.
He does, yeah, it's great.
It is not the titular golden gun that we get later in the series, but it is a golden gun nonetheless.
Or for you younger kids, it would be like the gold Desert Eagle in Call of Duty.
There's also the golden gun in GoldenEye, which is the one-shot kill gun. I love that.
It's a great gun. Great game. But Goldfinger escapes, and in the vault is Oddjob and Bond. Bond is trying to disarm.
Well, there's the other guy, too, until Oddjob throws him off the balcony.
Yeah, just picks up and throws him down like 4 flights.
Because this is after Goldfinger closes the vault, and Oddjob, loyal manservant that he is content to just die there. But there's other guys trying to escape, and then that's why Oddjob just throws him.
Yeah. So Oddjob and Bond, I don't remember how he gets out of his cuffs, but Oddjob and Bond start fighting.
Well, that's why I mentioned him throwing the guy, because that's how he gets the keys, because the other guy had the keys. Right. And the guy that Oddjob just threw off the balcony towards Bond that's where he gets the keys.
That's right, yeah. A classic Oddjob.
I don't blame him for that. Like, I don't blame him for not thinking of that.
No, you're right. Poor Oddjob. But he does pave the way to his own demise because him and Bond are fighting, and Oddjob is extremely strong, and he's overpowering Bond, and Bond is like hitting him with like gold bricks and stuff, and
he
just,
throws
like,
a gold
bouncing
brick
off his chest
at his torso, and there's no reaction. And you see just the effort that Bond has to put just to even throw that too. It's like
yeah,
it's great.
But at one point, Oddjob throws his hat and he like severs this electrical cable, and Bond kind of lures him into a trap. He throws Oddjob's hat at some metal. At some, Christ, what are the words I'm looking for, Patrick? Like
bars.
Yeah, thank you. Metal bars. And his hat gets stuck in there. So when Oddjob goes to reach for his hat, Bond shocks the bars and it kills Oddjob. It just fries him outright. So then Bond turns his attention back to the nuclear device, and he's trying like, he's got the case open. He's trying to figure out how to turn it off. He's got no fucking clue how to turn it off. There's like 30 seconds left. He's about to die. Then some random guy runs up and turns it off with 007 seconds left on the clock.
Which originally the clock just like stopped whenever, and it was a reshoot that had it at 007 because they thought, oh, that'd be kind of neat. But like when they actually shot the scene, it didn't stop at 007. It stopped at like 3 seconds left or something.
Oh, wow.
I could be imagining it, but I want to say there's a line that Bond says something, or maybe someone else says it to Bond. It's like, but imagine if we didn't get here in 3 more ticks, you would have died or something. I want to say they said 3 more ticks, as if it stopped at 3 seconds, but really it stopped at 7. I want to go back and watch that scene again now, but that's what I got there.
Yeah, you might be right. I think you're probably right about that.
Those frauds, they don't even... What a blatant continuity error.
Yeah, take that, Bond franchise. Take that, Sean Connery. So Bond kind of saves the day, but not really. Another guy saves the day, some random dude. And Bond is going to be put on a plane to go, I think, like back to the UK or whatever.
No, he's going to say hi to the president. He's going to go meet Lyndon Johnson. What are you laughing at? He was the president then.
Yeah, I know.
Did you think they think if Bond ever met Lyndon Johnson would whip his dick out like he did to that one senator who he was trying to get to vote for or something?
What? I never heard
there's
about
like
that.
There's Lyndon Johnson. This is before he was president, but there's some crazy stories about him. I think there was one instance where he was in like a bathroom in the Senate, and there was like some Democratic senator who didn't want to vote for the because I think he was Senate Majority Leader or Senate Whip or something like that. I don't know, but Lyndon Johnson just like dropped trow and just like took his dick out and is like, here, if you're anything like me, you're gonna vote for this bill or something. Yeah, Lyndon Johnson was kind of a crazy man. I swear, look it up. I'm botching the execution of the story, but there's some very, very slapping dink on the ass kinds of aged poorly things with Lyndon Johnson as well.
Yeah, I mean, if he did that, I bet James Bond would be like, mine's bigger. And just
that's why I brought it up, because I think Connery could challenge Lyndon.
Yeah, Sean Connery, true man's man. on this private plane, it seems like everything's over, but then Goldfinger pops out of nowhere with his cool golden gun. Him and Bond fight. I don't even know how to describe. Like, it's just like a fat old man fighting a relatively fit Scotsman, and then Goldfinger shoots the gun off and takes out a window of the airplane, and things just start like flying around the fuselage, and then Goldfinger's sucked right out the window, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Bond bursts into the cockpit, and there's pussy galore, and their plane crashes in the ocean. You're like, oh my god, they're dead. And then we see Felix in like a helicopter looking for them. Oh, but no, they're fine. They're just having sex under a parachute, laying on like somebody's lawn. That's it. That's the end of the movie.
Which I'm trying to think here. I just, not to nitpick, but they're leaving from Kentucky. They're going to Washington, D.C. What fucking body of water is that? Because they should only be flying over, like, rivers, right? Maybe a lake. Maybe it's a lake.
Maybe it's
We'll say it's a lake somewhere in, like, Maryland, I guess, or Virginia. I guess it's a lake.
Yeah, like, unless they made, like, a quick trip out over the ocean. Like,
but still, plot hole, you know? No, they had to fly over Antarctica to like save a day or whatever.
That's right. to go back in time.
Yeah, like Superman.
But yeah, that's it. Patrick, your thoughts on Goldfinger?
Goldfinger's great. I really enjoy the movie. I still think it's my second favorite Bond film. But I think I enjoyed it more this time than I remembered enjoying it. And I think I enjoyed a lot of the aspects of the filmmaking that I don't think I really noticed before. And some of the stuff we touched upon, but the seeing the guy attacking him in the reflection in that woman's eyes, I think is so neat. Mm-hmm. The establishing shots of Miami. There's just some really neat stuff. I also think the sound of the guns and stuff is just great in this movie for whatever reason. It's just gunshots really resonate in this movie more so than I seem to recall them doing in the previous two films. It's a very good movie. It's one of the best action movies ever, one of the best James Bond films ever, one of the best spy films ever. Dare I say, one of the great achievements in British cinema. You know, right up there with The Wicker Man and Kess and Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, it was in the top 70 of the BFI's list of greatest British movies.
So I bet you those other three films I mentioned are too. Kess is like a top 10 film according to the BFI, I think, and rightfully so. That movie's amazing. It's boring as hell, and you have to put on subtitles because those fucking Yorkshire accents are insane, but it's a great movie. And Jim, I know you're familiar with those accents, but
I am very
some
familiar.
aggressive Yorkshire accents in that movie. But Jim, what did you think of Goldfinger?
Well, you know how I think about it, or what I think about it. It's like my favorite Bond movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've already touched on how I feel about it, and you just kind of echoed my beliefs. And yeah, I mean, if you want classic Bond, this is like the best of classic Bond, in my opinion. This is the movie to watch.
Is this if you're talking to someone who has never seen a Bond movie, and you want to get them into it, is this the first one you would mention? Like, say, hey, go watch this? No,
for somebody who's never seen James Bond, I would not recommend any of the old Bond movies to them.
Really?
I would recommend one or two of the Daniel Craig movies, Casino Royale, Skyfall, either one of those ones. And then if they like those, I would say, hey, if you want, here's 30 other movies that were made before the year 2000 that you should check out.
See, I think my first would be, because I think to understand James Bond and to understand the cultural phenomenon that it is, you really have to. I understand Daniel Craig, more modern, different. It's a different beast. It's a different series. But to understand what Bond is, you really have to see the Connery films. And I think I would actually, this would be a close second, but I think I would recommend, problematic though it is, I would recommend You Only Live Twice. Because I think that movie, for its rip-roaring pace, and it's just throwing every fucking thing you could possibly want in a movie, ninjas, ninja stars, explosions, people in yellow face, everything you want in a movie is
Sean
in that
Connery
movie.
with a bowl cut.
And then it's also kind of not that the other Connery movies aren't, but it's also this is horrendously aged in certain aspects. It's a good awakening to that, because you're going to hit that point at one time or another watching the Connery movies. And that opening scene of Diamonds Are Forever is just the worst thing I've ever seen. I don't want to watch that. I want that can't be your Diamonds Are Forever. I don't want to be your first introduction to Bond is kind of problematic. I think you got to build up to
that's
it.
probably
Plus Diamonds Are Forever is a very
that's probably
movie,
the worst one. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say, You Only Live Twice and Goldfinger. But, Goldfinger's my fave.
Yeah, I think this is, again, going back to From Russia with Love, which I think is just about as good as this. This is a much more modern pace to it. I think it more closely resembles how action movies are today than From Russia with Love does, which is sort of halfway between. I mean, Dr. No is just like a snooze fest, and it's just slow and boring the entire time. From Russia with Love is halfway between Dr. No and here in Goldfinger, where it's the first half is kind of Dr. No. The second half, once we get on the train, then it's pretty similar to what it's like here. But yeah, this is like that throughout the entire thing just about. So it's great. Yeah.
So that's that. Let's move on.
All right. Dead or Alive, 1999, from director Takashi Miike. This is our second Takashi Miike film. This is our second Takashi Miike film released in 1999. just because, again, if you look at Takashi Miike's Wikipedia, that man was pumping out 5 or 6 movies a year for a while. I don't know how he did it, especially because like other people who do that, like the Jim Wynorskis and stuff, their movies look like shit, and his do not. His are like well made, so I really don't like Audition. Audition's an incredible movie. It's like he made that the same year as he made this, and I think this is the first movie in a trilogy. I think the second Dead or Alive may have also come out in 1999. I could be wrong on that. But it's also it's like a Dollars trilogy, where they're not really sequels. They're not connected. There's maybe a few thematic connections, but the 2 leads in this movie are the 2 leads throughout the Dead or Alive trilogy. So that's Sho Aikawa, who plays the cop here, and Riki Takuchi, who plays the gangster. Who, by the way, have you ever seen a cooler looking person than Riki Takuchi?
No.
I don't think I have. I really don't. And we just saw Sean Connery in a movie, and I'm like, Riki Takuchi is just the coolest guy. Like, just the way he walks and the way he wears sunglasses. He doesn't always wear sunglasses, but he's got that black overcoat. He's like constantly wearing black. He's like Hamlet. And he's just so cool. And he's got that like pompadour kind of thing. He's just so awesome.
Yeah. There's like some slow-mo shots where he looks really cool.
Yeah.
You're like, wow.
Yeah, he's just one of the coolest people ever. That goes without saying, I guess, if you've seen this movie. But anyways, so how do I talk about this movie, Jim? You lend me some ideas here. I guess we have to talk about the first scene.
Well,
but even that I'm having trouble with.
My problem, I watched this movie twice, back to back.
Okay. This movie's on Tubi, by the way, in the United States, but apparently not in Canada.
Yeah, you know what I forgot to tell you, Patrick? And listeners, I know you don't care, but I'm going to tell you anyways. The movie was not available in Canada anywhere, not on any streaming service. I couldn't even find like one to watch online somewhere. It's literally non-existent in Canada, except for Kingston Classic Video.
Oh, coming in clutch.
Yeah, so
the people who you have a $40 late fee with, they're there to help you.
Yeah, I grabbed my fear by the horns and I humped it into submission. And I went into
Kingston Sean Connery
Classic.
and lesbians.
Exactly. Humping everything into submission in that movie. I went into Kingston Classic Video. They had it. The people there are super nice, as always, and I didn't owe any late fees. So now I can go back whenever I want.
Amazing. You literally waited it out. You just like waited until they forgave you because it was like over a year ago. Because it was the first Godzilla movie, right? We recorded that probably in like December or something. December of 2020.
Yeah.
We're in January of 2022. This episode's coming out later, but yeah, we just lost Meatloaf yesterday. Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Speaking of rest in peace, let's talk about the entire country of Japan being destroyed. Not in any Godzilla film that we've done, but here in Dead or Alive. So, this movie's insane. And you will know that if you watch it from the opening scene, which is amazing. I love the opening scene. The opening scene is 7 minutes of, it's like the 7-minute montage of just insanity. And it really like gears you up for like a movie that's unlike anything you've seen before. And if I have a complaint, it's actually that though there's that Takashi Miike weirdness and like depravity throughout the movie sprinkled in here and there, the movie's actually a little too conventional, compared to the opening scene. Or I guess it's bookended by insanity at the opening and the closing, but kind of the middle is, it's hyper violent, it's got weirdness, but it's kind of a conventional movie. And the opening scene really gets you kind of thinking you'll see something completely different. And I don't know, that's just an observation. But
well, I was just going to say I agree with you, but the opening scene does certainly give you that vibe. Like it's crazier than the rest of the movie, but you know what to expect from the rest of the movie.
Yes. Yes. So the opening scene, it's like I said, it's about 5, 6, 7 minutes long. It's got this rock song playing, this like hard rock song. And well, the very first thing we hear a scream, and we see what looks like a mannequin thrown out like a skyscraper. And we see we see later, because it's a montage, so it cuts back and forth between all these different things. But we do see a dead body on the ground outside a building and someone collecting like a bag of cocaine from that body. So I guess that was the mannequin. Mm-hmm. And we see a dude snorting like a 30-foot long line of coke. We see a stripper. We see sex. We see a guy eating a lot of noodles in a disgusting way.
Yeah.
We see, Riki Takuchi just like kind of pulling guns out. We see like all this stuff. We see everything. We see just every single thing. It's like, again, it's 7 minutes long and it never stops being entertaining. And it's edited like a trailer. In fact, the first time I saw this movie, I was like 30 seconds in and I'm like, did I click on the trailer? I thought I clicked on the movie. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? But no, it's the movie. The movie just starts like that. And it's insane and it's amazing.
If you were in theaters, like, people who get seizures should not watch this movie. Just for that.
It's really just that scene, though. But I understand what you mean. It is just that scene. Other movies I would not recommend anyone who are prone to seizures watching. The Rise of Skywalker, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, the edit in which Paul Rudd beats Michael Myers to death with a lead pipe. That is like edited really weird, I remember. That's the inferior edit of the film anyways, if we're being perfectly honest. Neither film's good, but yeah, once you see Paul Rudd going to town on Michael Myers with a lead pipe, and it's just like insane editing. It's like, yeah, so this movie. So what do we got? This is a Yakuza film, which the Yakuza, of course, is like the Japanese mafia. And we've basically got three groups of characters here. We've got Ryuichi, who's Riki Takuchi. He's got his gang of people, which includes, he's not a member of the gang, but he's also got his younger brother, who has been studying in the United States. We've got cops, which is mainly Detective Jojima, who is Shoakawa. Mm-hmm. And he's also got a partner. And then he's got a little bit of his family stuff back home, which is, it's important. I don't think we're going to dwell too much on it. And then we've also got like the big-time gang guys. And so we've got Aoki, who's the Yakuza boss, who has some ties to Jojima. And then we've also got Chen, who is the Chinese triad boss. Right? So those are like all our main players here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got the Yakuza. They're trying to arrange some kind of deal with the triads. But meanwhile, Ryuichi's gang is basically just there to fuck things up. Like, they don't really have too clear of goals other than they just want to mess with people. Like, their first big thing that they do is they steal a bunch of money from the Yakuza, and they do it in a really fun scene where it all starts with there's one of the gang members is like pretending to be a bum who's like drunk on the street, who then just starts kicking the shit out of all these all these guys, all these armed guys, and then they run off with the money, and then he runs off with the money that he doesn't give to his gang members. There's just like a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, so basically, to sum up the plot rather quickly, the whole thing is Ryuichi wants to take on the Yakuzas, but his brother, his younger brother Toji, doesn't approve of his leading a life of violence, so he doesn't want him to do this. He just, again, wants to go to school. And then Detective Jojima investigates like this first initial robbery, but the reason he has to like investigate it is because he's in debt with Aoki, because Aoki has given him money for like his, was it a son or daughter? I can't remember, but his kid needed an operation.
Daughter?
I think it's a daughter, right?
Yeah.
I just saw the movie. And
I think so.
There's a lot of characters here. Okay. So that's kind of what's going on. And it eventually, we get some human drama, I think. I think I'm speaking for both of us when I say like that opening scene, you kind of expect the movie to just be off the rails the entire time and never really slow down and just always be really fast-paced and action-packed. And honestly, it is, I don't want to say the movie's, painfully slow or anything, but the movie is a lot quieter than you're led to believe it will be. And you do have these scenes of human drama with with Toji and Ryuichi, and then even the other members of Ryuichi's gang who all discuss like what they want to do once they can get out of their gang crime life. Like you have a Hitoshi who steals the money that they steal in the robbery, but he doesn't bring it to Ryuichi. He instead takes it to his mom, and he tries to move her back to China, which is another thing too, that and I don't know how much of this is clear to me, but I guess Ryuichi and his gang, they're all like, what was it? Wikipedia said they were, what word did they list? They're all Nikkei, Nikkei. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I'm looking that up. That is apparently the Japanese diaspora. So these are people that were probably, they're ethnically Japanese, but they also have ties to other places like, China or Thailand or wherever. And so they're kind of seen as foreigners, which partially explains their life of crime, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and their want to go back to their respective countries, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that was something that kind of confused me throughout the movie. I was like, but you're not Chinese. Why do you want to go back?
Yeah, it wasn't, that's something that's just like a cultural barrier where that wasn't really clear to me watching. But I think like the first time it really like struck me was actually kind of later in the movie when Ryuichi goes and visits his younger brother at the university campus. And they're talking, and he says something like, because he's talking about wanting to go to the United States, or because he has studied there and stuff, and he says, like, not every minority is a gang member there. And I'm thinking, like, is he talking about them, or is he talking about, like, Japanese perception of American minorities? And, like, I thought maybe he was talking about that, but no, he is talking about them, because they are seen as minorities here, even though it wasn't really apparent to me.
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of things in this movie that are kind of lost in our cultural differences.
Yeah.
And it made it a little confused. Like, to be honest, I couldn't even pick out one specific thing other than that, but it made the movie a little confusing.
Well, I'll just say right here, the ending, I don't know what the fuck that was. I don't know if that's a cultural barrier, but I have no idea what happened.
I'm wondering if it's like... if it was meant to be more comedic or even like symbolic of something. I
definitely comedic, possibly symbolic, but definitely comedic, I would say. But what is that? Like the movie in the last couple minutes becomes a parody, and it's very weird. And there are moments of comedy throughout this movie, but it's never like it's relatively
it's
serious
never
film.
Ridiculous.
Right,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Eventually, when a guy pulls his own arm off at the end, it's like, okay, we're doing something a little different than what we've been doing here. But there's like a little bit of comedy.
Yeah,
early,
it's like the movie suddenly became a live-action anime.
Yeah, but there is like a little bit of comedy early on. Like, for instance, it's towards the end of the opening scene, but the one guy who's eating a bunch of noodles, when he gets shot, like he gets shot through the stomach, and the noodles come out of him, and then when Jojima's on the scene, like, he identifies what kind of noodles they are, and then that's how he figures that this is a Chinese gang or something. Like, that's a comedy moment there.
yeah, I like that. That was actually I really liked that.
But I'll tell you what, it's not comedic to see someone drown in their own shit. At least not in this movie, because we got to talk about that scene.
That scene reminded me of the eating puke scene from Audition.
Yeah. That's the biggest tell that this is by the same director, I guess, is probably how I would put that.
It's weird that like throughout the movie you get like weird, depraved things happening, but it takes you a second to realize that it's happening. You know? Like with the shit stuff, it took me a second. I was like, "Oh my god, that's shit."
Cuz at first you're like, "What's going on?" Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was the other scene where, I forget who was in it. Was it the detective? He walks up and there's this dude. He's like jerking off a dog so that this dog can bang this woman so that they can film it.
As one does.
Yeah. But you don't, like, I did, like, the subtitles come up on the screen and it was like, jerk that dog off.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, wait,
Yeah,
what?
there's some shocking things in the subtitles that I have not seen in subtitles before.
Yeah.
I will say that. But yeah, I mean, this is. I'll just say it here. I think this is a good movie. I think this is a movie that is worth watching. However, of all of the movies we've done, at least of all of the good movies we've done, I'll exclude something like Spookies or Screwballs, which you and I wouldn't recommend those movies to anybody. But like, of all the good movies, I think this is the one I'd probably have the hardest time recommending to anybody because it is so out there and it's weird.
Abrasive.
And the ending and all the craziness, the drowning in one's own shit. And it's like, yeah, it's not an easy movie to recommend. You don't go up to someone and say like, "Oh, you love action movies. You would love this movie." And then they're like watching it and they're like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, it's a hard movie to recommend. It's a hard movie to like. I think it's a very specific audience, and it's like, because I'm thinking even like Audition. Like, Audition goes to incredible territory eventually. But I can see someone watching that because it's like, I think it's a better movie than this. So I think it's just worth watching because of how well done it is. But it's like this great character piece. And I love the way it like switches genres in a really creative way. This movie kind of switches genres like in the last minute in a way that, I'm still not really sure how I feel about it. But I don't know. I just think this is a very difficult movie. I mean, it's a difficult movie to talk about. It's a difficult movie to just, to recommend to someone. I don't know. What did you think of it?
Well, it's also a difficult movie. Well, as always, Patrick, I tend to agree with you, and I'm agreeing with you on this. But it's also difficult because there's just so much going on that it's almost hard to follow at times. There are so many like side things going on with different characters and different characters' families. It's just like, and again, comparing it to Audition, where Audition is a pretty straightforward story that veers off
Audition.
into
I mean, if nothing
genres.
else, Audition has like 4 characters basically. There's a lot of characters in this movie,
and there's just a lot of stuff. Well, for me, anyways, there's a lot of stuff to keep track of, and sometimes it was moving so fast I would have to like rewind and like rewatch like 2 minutes, and I'm like, oh, that's what happened. I get it. I would recommend this movie to people that like you or I know who are open to watching all kinds of movies, who are just interested to watch films from different cultures, time periods, whatever.
Right.
But I would not recommend this movie to like a relative who's like, "Oh yeah, I like movies."
This
Marvel,
is this is not a there's something in the old like Red Letter Media Half in the Bag videos. Like, I think they say this on like the first couple of them. Like, it's been years since they've probably brought this up, but they talk about like, no, this isn't a movie I'd recommend to grandma or something like that. And like, that's kind of like become my way of like, okay, Reanimator, great movie, but it's not a movie for grandma, and it's like, yeah, Dead or Alive, not a movie for grandma. No. I'll just say that, Goldfinger maybe. Grandma could enjoy Goldfinger.
Yeah, grandma would be like, "Oh, that's Sean Connery."
Oh, I love that toupee.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Jet black. This is a movie I would have a hard time recommending to like good friends of mine who I know like watching movies, because I don't know what they would get out of it. You know what I mean?
That's fair. That's very fair. And now this also comes back to, I've joked about this in the past when we've covered Japanese films on this podcast, which so far has just been Takashi Miike and Godzilla movies. That's all it's been. But I've joked about how my limited knowledge of Japanese cinema is basically all Japanese films either feature a giant rubber monster, someone in a rubber monster costume, or features the most fucked up and sadistic, messed up stuff you've ever seen. This is obviously the latter. Again, I've never seen like any of the Studio Ghibli movies. I haven't watched any anime whatsoever. So it's like I know deep down in my brain that Japanese cinema is has a lot more to it than just what I've seen. But what I've seen has been Godzilla movies, Gamera movies, Takashi Miike movies, and movies like Tokyo Gore Police. You know, it's stuff like that. I guess I've seen like Ringu, and there's a few other like horror movies. There's a few, but that's pretty much it. Yeah. That having been said, I love Japanese cinema for what it is. I still love Takashi Miike, but we got to talk about the ending scene. You know, because I want to. You're a soundboard here. I want to bounce this off of you because I don't know what to make of it. You referenced something when I mentioned it earlier. I don't know if it was an anime thing or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, well, like I guess you explain what happens, and then I'll tell you what I was saying earlier.
All right. Yes. Yeah, so, well, first of all, there's an awesome action scene at this Yakuza banquet thing, where
it's amazing.
Ryuichi and his gang comes in. Kills everybody. There's just guns. You know, there's so many squibs. There's a guy in like a bird costume that gets shot up. So there's like fake feathers flying around, which is great.
Yeah.
Incredible scene, incredibly violent, awesome stuff. But Chen, the Chinese triad leader, takes his new gifted sword and comes at Ryuichi, who is saved because Ryuichi's brother has shown up. Even though he kind of showed up there just to stop everything, he didn't really want to kill anyone because he's not a gang member. But after that, then Jojima's partner shows up and he gets shot, again, dozens of times, but he's able to get one shot off and he kills Toji. Toji's the brother. So Ryuichi wants revenge, and even though Jojima's partner is dead, he decides to put a bomb in Jojima's car, but he doesn't realize that Jojima sends his family away, so it's actually his wife and kid that get in the car, so they die. And then it's like, okay, these two people friggin' hate each other now at this point. And that's so we get to our climax, which is in this like field where there's like a dirt road going through a field, and there's these two cars. It's Jojima in his, and then it's Ryuichi with two of his men in theirs, and they have like a thing of chicken, right, where they drive at each other and they have to swerve. And Ryuichi's car crashes, but everyone gets out, and then Jojima is charging at them. One of Ryuichi's men basically suicide bombs the car. He jumps through the windshield with a grenade, and the car blows up. And in my favorite shot of the movie, there's like a shot from behind Ryuichi's back, and they look to see what's going on, and then there's no car in front of them, and then the car just like falls from above. It's a really cool shot. That's kind of funny. So then they like go to look at like, okay, what's going on, and it appears the guy who suicide bombed the car is dead, which obviously. But then Jojima shoots Ryuichi's man and kills him. So then it's just the two of them. Jojima gets out of his car. He can't put his arm in place. His arm is like stuck. It's broken, so he just rips it off. And it's just like a geyser of blood coming out of it.
Yeah.
And this is like a classic Western standoff thing. I got a Western vibe even just when the cars showed up. Even before they're having this true standoff, this feels like an old Western, like a spaghetti Western kind of thing. But then the two of them, they shoot each other like a dozen times each. They're all just like, there's, again, so many squibs and everything. But then Jojima pulls out a bazooka, which was, I guess, strapped to his back. You know, he basically just manifests this bazooka. And then, how would we describe what Ryuichi does here? Is it a Hadouken?
I would describe it as doing like a Kamehameha from Dragon Ball, or like
Hadouken,
a Rasengan from Naruto.
I don't know what that is, but there's a bit of a Palantir quality.
Like a fire Rasengan? Yeah, you're right, yeah.
It looks like the Palantir when
Sauron's gonna start talking to people.
Anyways, it's just this ball of energy, and he throws it, and it's coming at Jojima, so Jojima fires his bazooka, and it hits the ball of energy, and then there's an explosion, the field is engulfed, and then we see this like beautiful little like early internet view of the Earth, like the rendering of the Earth, and then we see that Japan goes up in like a mushroom cloud, basically. And that's
Yeah,
the
all of
fucking
Japan.
end of the movie. That is how it ends. So I think it's safe to say, yeah, even if you didn't know this, yeah, the sequel to this movie, not really a sequel. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of like the Cornetto trilogy, right? As we were
Yeah, the
speaking
Cornetto
just
trilogy, the
briefly off
Dollars
mic.
trilogy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trilogies like that, or trilogy series, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, so what I was referencing was, Patrick, you don't know this, but now I'm super into anime. I'm trying not to be, because I don't want to be that person. But I watched, I watched all of Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. So combined, there's almost 1,000 episodes. I watched all of them, audience, and even all the filler episodes, and it was amazing.
Wait, you haven't even watched
but it's a lot
Frasier
like
yet,
that,
have
like
you?
the
Why are
ending
you
of
watching this
movie.
shit?
I've watched Frasier. I've seen Frasier.
Have you? All of it? Okay.
No, not all of it.
Oh, there we
but-
go. You've watched 1,000 episodes of this crap, but you can't watch a couple hundred of Frasier?
You take that back. Naruto's great. It's great. But now I'm also watching Attack on Titan, which is terrifying, which made me think about this a lot. Or which reminded me of Attack on Titan a lot. Yeah, my point was, the end of the movie turns into an anime. In the last minute, as you've said already, it ups itself, but continuously like one-ups itself, like every 10 seconds for the last minute until all of Japan explodes.
Now, is there, I mean, you mentioned, is there something symbolic there? There might be. I don't know. There's definitely something humorous just in this scene in itself. What are you laughing at?
Well, I like how you're like, well, I don't know.
Well, yeah, because I don't know, because it could be something completely lost on me.
Yeah.
Because I'm missing context for a lot of things in this movie. I don't know, but like the ending, it's almost like I don't know. It's almost like, is it a commentary on? But even if there is like a message there, symbolism or just satire or whatever, like what are they sending up? Is it Japanese culture? Is it film? Is it the action genre? I don't know. It could be like 15 different things. And my brain just doesn't know what to do with that ending. So right now, I'll just say I don't like the ending. I think the film has the best opening scene ever and maybe the worst final scene ever. It's weird. It's a weird film.
You might be right with that. Because I just I don't know why. Why? Just why? You know? And even if it is symbolic of something, why not just have them both use weapons? Not one guy have like a fireball in his hand, you know?
They could have both fired bazookas, and I would have that would have been fine, you know, because it's like a comedic thing that Jojima even has a bazooka with him, let alone that you couldn't see it, that it was strapped to his back. But like, why can't Ryuichi also have a bazooka or something? But then I guess it wouldn't blow up all of Japan, so who knows? But I don't know if blowing up all of Japan was necessary for the story, is what I'm saying, but. It's a confusing scene. I will say, a few years ago, I know I've mentioned this movie before, but Takashi Miike made a movie called First Love, which is an outstanding film. It came out, I think, in 2019. It came out in like 2020 in most of the world. Got like a Valentine's Day release in the UK. I was in the UK at the time, which I am now, by the way. There was a scene in that movie that reminded me of this scene here, because there's a scene where there's like the main characters are trying to escape. They're in their car, and they come to a place. They're up high in a parking garage, and there is no logical way where they can escape. So the film just kind of like cuts to like a cartoon animation of them driving off the ramp and just like flying for several hundred feet. And I remember watching that, and I'm like, that was the really one part in that movie that I didn't really like. But I'm like, oh, maybe that's just like his thing, Takashi Miike's thing. If he gets to a point where there's no realistic answers for something to happen, I don't know if I want to call it magical realism, but like he just doesn't care if fantasy emerges in his work, I guess. I don't know how else to put it, but like, okay, whatever.
And I mean, it's funny though, because there's so many scenes in Dead or Alive that, I mean, because you might be right with that, because there are so many scenes in it that look magical, but not in like a nice way, if that makes sense. Like the graveyard, where
the graveyard being like this reminded me of Sandy Cove in Ireland. It's just like dreary place where it's just like, it's almost like you could only get there on low tide. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, I was gonna say it reminded me of the mud flats in Mad Max.
Yeah. So what do you think of this movie overall, Jim?
It's a little confusing. It's certainly depraved. I'm not saying Takashi Miike is depraved, but the film.
No, there's an art. Like there's a separate the art.
There's
from
an
the
art in
here,
that depravity.
Right. Yeah. No, but it's like, what's his face?
But
not Botticelli, but who was the weirdo? Well, I guess Goya. Like he painted some depraved shit.
Yeah,
like,
Goya.
Is he a awful person? I don't know.
Well, I didn't like his art. I can tell you that.
Well, that's you, but no. Who was the other guy? The medieval guy.
Well, whoever painted Jupiter or what is it? Saturn? No, Jupiter devouring
that's
his sons.
Goya.
Was that Goya?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there is art in the depravity, but sometimes it's just like it's a little too much, like that shit pool, like just stuff like that, or it kind of, like the whole movie kind of reminded me of oh shit, what's that French director's name who makes weird movies?
Aja? Aha?
Who made fuck? What's the name of the movie?
When you say weird movies, are we talking normal weird or like weird?
Like weird.
Are we talking high tension or are we talking?
Is one called
French New Wave?
Irreversible?
Oh, that guy. Oh, that fucking prick. What was that guy's name? Yeah,
who I'm
I hate
talking
that
about.
guy. Yeah, he made Irreversible, Climax, Love.
Noé? Isn't it Noé?
Gaspar Noé? No.
Yeah, I think it's Noé. I think it's Gaspar Noé. But yeah, this movie reminded me of like something Gaspar Noé would make, but
okay,
it seems like there's more. I don't want to shit on him because I think some of his movies are interesting, but it seems like there's more intelligence behind the lens with like coming from Takashi Miike. But knowing that, I'm not entirely sure what I was supposed to get out of all of the depravity. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I understood the story. I understood the characters.
I mean, that is how I'll admit that's how I felt watching Irreversible. I'm impressed by some of the filmmaking, but I'm so put off by everything that I'm not really sure what to get out of it. That's how I felt with that.
Exactly. But no, I mean, I understood the story of this movie. I just didn't understand a lot of the director's decisions, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, and I will say, like, there's something. The way Takashi Miike frames a lot of his shots is almost like a very like art house or like indie filmmaker kind of aesthetic, because he has like lots of these shots that are just like kind of long and static and no one's really that close to the camera. And I'm just thinking like all these shots, like when they're on the rooftops, or even the scene where Hitoshi goes home to his mother, and it's just like these flat shots that are like where there's just very little happening in the shot, and someone will say something, and they're like long takes of just like dialogue, and I'm like, this is such like an art house or an indie way to film a movie. And like nowadays, when you see that style, it's usually in like one of those indie dramedies where people sit in a bathtub and like talk about all that they've learned throughout the movie. But like, I like seeing that style here in a movie that also features someone getting noodles shot out of their stomach. Like there's contrast almost in the style where there's this a little bit of the the high intensity action. It's not as great, as well choreographed as like it's the guy that did Face Off and like The Killer, that Hong Kong guy.
I know who you're talking about, but yes.
Yeah, but there's a little bit almost of that like gun fu style, but there's also like some kind of thoughtful drama here, and I kind of appreciate the mixture of those two. I agree it doesn't work perfectly.
But you know what it does do, though? What it does do is that like you get a little stressed out from all these action scenes where the camera's just cutting or moving and people are moving and there's noises and lights and all kinds of action happening on the screen. But then you get to like this human drama and it's nice and slow and you can just kind of soak it in. You can also kind of relax, but you're also not entirely relaxed because all of the human drama in the movie is like sad. So, so you're just depressed. And then you got to cut straight back to like crazy gun fu shit,
Okay. And I also will say, because you mentioned the editing there, because you also mentioned Gaspar Noé, I will say that this movie is not edited nearly as obnoxiously as a Gaspar Noé film. I fucking hate
I agree.
that he always does these things where there's just black frames when he edits from one shot to another, or sometimes even within the shot. I hate that. I don't know why he does it. I first noticed it when I watched Love, and I'm like, this is the worst editing, most obnoxious editing technique I've ever seen. And then he has it all over Climax, too. I'll say this, like, Takashi Miike does weird things, but he never pisses me. He doesn't have things in his very unique style that piss me off. So I just greatly prefer him to someone like Gaspar Noé, who maybe there isn't that much of a connection between those two, but I'm just like, I don't know. So, Jim, which of these two movies do you prefer?
I'm going to have to say I prefer Goldfinger.
Okay.
But that Dead or Alive was a really neat foray into Japanese cinema, and I can honestly say it's something I have never seen before, nor will I see anything like it for a long time, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, it's Goldfinger, easily, because I had seen Dead or Alive before, and I will say that even watching it here, though I still like it, I didn't like it as much as I remembered it. And Goldfinger I actually liked more than I remembered liking it in the past. But I don't think it's that close for me. I think Goldfinger is just a very, very good movie that I don't have an awful lot of complaints about. Most of the complaints are just how it's aged here and there, But it's a very good movie.
Yeah, now, how would you rate them as a double feature?
So we're talking drive-in double feature. Okay. We've got two great drive-in movies here, I think. Goldfinger is the most drive-in worthy of the first three James Bond movies we've had, just in terms of the pacing. Car blowing up and starting on fire in midair is awesome. Like, it's just great stuff there. Dead or Alive, completely batshit insane film that, it's like kind of, maybe this is just Takashi Miike in general, but it's like kind of, it combines like drive-in and art house. It's like if you could have like a drive-in art house cinema,
Okay, yeah.
Takashi Miike movies would be showing every night there, because there is like that weird kind of artistic touch, and not just because it's a foreign film, because anyone can be distracted into thinking a movie is more artful or intelligent or well done than it is because they have to read subtitles. I'm not talking about that, but I'm just talking about just his skills as a filmmaker. But yeah, I think the two movies are very, very different. They're completely different depictions or different examples of what you can do within the action genre. But I think they're really fun as that, because the first one, more adventure, more classic action, some gadgets. The second one, kind of gun fu, more, or I shouldn't say the movie's more fast-paced, but the action, when we have it, is more fast-paced and quick cut and violent, super violent. I'm going to say these movies work well together. Jim, you already kind of hinted at your answer, but give it to me straight here. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you took the words out of my mouth. That's what I would have said.
Is that a Meatloaf reference?
No. Poor Meatloaf.
Rest in peace.
But no, rest in peace. My loaf of meat. I agree. I didn't expect, when I saw that these two movies came up together for our double feature, I thought, oh, fuck. I thought, there's no way. There's no way these two are going to work well together. And it turns out
you didn't know what the hell Dead or Alive was, too. I think I even told you just like, you'll know if you're watching the right movie, because is it insane in the first 30 seconds or not? Because that's like really how you know.
Yeah. It was kind of nice because I watched them. Did you watch them in our drive-in order?
I did. I didn't watch them. I did not watch them back to back though. I've currently, when we're recording this, I have COVID, so my sleep schedule's been really weird. So I like woke up at 2 a.m, and that's when I watched Goldfinger, and then I fell back asleep, and then I watched Dead or Alive later in the day.
Yeah, so like 2 or 3 days ago, I watched Goldfinger, and then I watched Dead or Alive right after, and then I took a 20-minute break, and then I watched Dead or Alive again. I think it works like really well, because you do have that kind of classic camp, tongue-in-cheek, secret agent-y gadget and like action stuff from James Bond, and it is exciting in its own way. And then you just jump into like this kind of, I guess, like new age action. Bond is like classical action, then you get new age action. And that's what this was. That's what Dead or Alive was. And it just exploded onto the screen. So James Bond ends where he's banging pussy galore under a parachute, and you get the great Goldfinger theme. And then I cut immediately to, like, rock and roll music and a crazy 7 minutes of, like, quick cuts
and a mannequin
just crazy shit
being thrown off of the roof of a skyscraper.
Yeah. Like, and it was just great. It led into it so perfectly. And I genuinely think this might be my favorite pairing that we've come up with.
Wow.
Doing this podcast so far.
That's high praise from someone who is begrudgingly, I think, perhaps becoming more and more accepting of our double feature pairings. I feel like, unless we've just had a good luck of the draw, but I feel like you're coming around on these double features a bit more.
I am. I really am.
But let's see if that streak continues next week when we're doing our first movie from the 40s. It's also our first Universal Monsters sequel. We are doing The Invisible Man Returns, starring Vincent Price, and we are doing the long-anticipated Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity from 1987 from producer Charles Band, starring Elizabeth Caton and the great Brink Stevens. I've hinted at it before. I think it came up first in the King Kong episode, and I mentioned it a few times because you didn't believe that it was a real movie title, but it is.
No, I didn't.
Well, you're gonna find out. So, The Invisible
excited.
Man Returns, Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity. Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity is streaming on Full Moon if you happen to have that, which, yeah, maybe I'm the only one on earth. I get it. You might have some luck with it on Tubi, maybe, because a lot of Full Moon movies end up on Tubi or Prime, but look for those there. Invisible Man Returns, maybe on Peacock. That's probably the most likely streaming service you'd find that on. Be sure to check out those movies and tune in next week as we discuss them. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at Drive-In Podcast. We have an Instagram now at Revenge of the Drive-In. And check out our Patreon for commentary tracks and early access to episodes and trailers. That's patreon.com/Revenge of the Drive-In. And Jim, as always, thank you very much for joining me.
Patrick, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll see you next time, folks.
Take it easy, everybody.